among us. Martin Luther King said, "I have a dream that my four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." I believe Dr. Z had the same dream. A dream where every young boy and every young girl who was cast aside, who was labeled as a degenerate, who was given up on, who was considered a troublemaker, who was one who folks said you couldn't make it. I believe that Dr. Z believed that these children should have the same right, that they should be individuals that would be able to have the same opportunity not to be judged by the color of their skin, but to be judged by the content of their character and the ability that they had within them. Dr. Z was a man of a second chance. He was similarly to God, who is a man of second chances and always giving someone, no matter how bad we are, no matter what we do, no matter how much we turn away, no matter how many times we don't listen, he still gives us a second chance. Dr. Z was godlike, a type of God who believed in a second chance. It is rare that you find a man willing to go against all odds and to fight the battle for those who are unable, or even sometimes unwilling to fight the battle for themselves. But Dr. Z fought the fight for those who didn't even know there was a fight to be fought. Sometimes Dr. Z even created a battle just for the sake of creating a battle, in order just to stimulate the people, because you know complacency sometimes lays in the 4 square miles of this city. Dr. Z, a man of second chance. He was the kind of man who believed in those who did not believe in themselves. He exhibited a Christ-like quality in being able to look beyond the surface and the exterior of the hardcore child that stood before him. In fact, many children thought they were hard and thought they were hardcore and thought they knew it all, when in reality they were just like lambs that Jesus took care of. And Dr. Z was their shepherd, with rod and staff in hand, being able to guide when needing to guide, and being able to snatch back when needing to snatch back. Dr. Z was a type of Superman. You see, he had X-ray vision. He was able to see inside the person rather than just make the judgment based upon a superficial, pseudo-hardcore exterior. Today, we struggle to find this type of educator and man like Dr. Z. Too many times, folks get caught up in the system. There are few who are willing to follow the example of Dr. Z and fight against the system for the betterment of the children at all cost. Dr. Zollicoffer understood the need for the system and rules and regulations of the system, but he refused to become a slave to them. The children were first. And if a child wanted to succeed against all odds, Dr. Z would share in the battle with the child and the family to make them succeed. Jesus compels us here in Matthew that we must be champions for those who are the least among us, as Dr. Z challenged us to be champions for those who are the least among us. I don't know why God brought me back to Mount Vernon, because when I left in '84, I said I'd never come back. Was not in my plan to come back to this city, but I had to care for my mother, and I came back, and I stayed. You've got to know that there is a treasure in this city. And Dr. Z understood that there were many treasures in this city. Even then, Dr. Z would mentally even challenge those, because he understood that there's sometimes folks did not want to take up the battle for themselves. Dr. Z took the charge seriously and remained committed until he was unable to physically do it anymore. But even then, Louise, Dr. Z would mentally begin to challenge others in order to pick up the mantle from where he had left off. He'd start to ask questions and start to probe the minds of those that he knew had potential to make the difference for the children that he was making a difference for. He did not stop. He understood that somebody needed to pick up the mantle of liberation for the suffering and those who have been breached. While he lays in state here, today we must understand that his spirit is calling us to action. Calling all of our young people and young men and young women who have crossed over the doorways of Mandela to be examples unto those who are coming behind them. He is calling to action the teachers and the staff members, the educators, former educators, to bind together and to make a difference in the education system in this city. Dr. Z's spirit is calling us out of ourselves into the purpose for which we stand. Oh, mere words are empty, but our actions speak volumes. If we just are able to demonstrate the words that we speak in this beloved city, Mount Vernon, like Malcolm made Harlem his vineyard, so did Dr. Z make Mount Vernon his. There is a need for the children of Mandela to rise up and affect change in this city in the name of Hosea Zollicoffer. Jesus made the charge and Dr. Z set the example. What more do you need to fuel the fire and motivate for action of change? Change comes from within and not from without. And today there is a need for a transformational change in this city. If you are to be part of the solution, then you ought to stand up. But if you are not part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. And Dr. Z has always sought the solution in whatever problem has come his way. He's faced it and never shied away from a battle. And nor should we. A challenge or an adversity or a threat, he always stood up. He was bold in his beliefs for children, that everyone was made equal and that every child ought to be given a good chance. So today, we reflect on the life and the legacy of Dr. Zollicoffer, and I want to challenge us to embrace the same power source that he did, Jesus. You see, he understood that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and that no man come unto the Father except through Jesus. Hosea Zollicoffer accepted and knew Jesus as his power source, and through his power source he was able to make changes in lives of thousands of children that have crossed his path. What is your power source, and when will you make the change today? Many of us have gone on to be successful because of men like Dr. Zollicoffer. We're successful businessmen and educators and political leaders, and now's the time for us to take up the mantle of change. Trust in the Lord and be of good courage. Understand that God is on your side, but you've got to accept him for who he is. You've got to call on the name of Jesus. If it's on your bedside, call Jesus. If you're walking down the street,